Good day everybody and welcome back to my channel. Now today I'm going to be talking to you about Oxbridge. So first of all, what is Oxbridge for those of you who don't quite know? So Oxbridge is a ship-off name between two of the most famous universities in the UK, Oxford University and Cambridge University. Both of these universities are very good, but they've also got a massive stigma around them. So traditionally, it was only the posher people who could ever go to Oxford or Cambridge, specifically posh boys, because you had to pay a lot to get there because you had to pay for a good education and pay for education at the university, be able to live by yourself at the university, or basically you'd need to have rich parents before you went. And not only that, because good education was only really provided to boys at the time, only boys would be able to go there, and also they wouldn't even offer full degrees to female people until about 60 years ago. So yes, it is both of the universities have developed a kind of stereotype for rich white boys. That might put you off, and it's put off pretty much everyone I know. I know a couple of people who weren't put off by it and still decided that that was where they wanted to go and that's where they wanted to apply. But I know lots of people who were definitely able to go, but because that was what they believed it was like, they decided not to go. And to a certain extent it's true, because the stigma is still there. People have always kind of believed that it's all about posh white rich boys, and posh white rich boys don't really tend to worry about being with other posh white rich boys, so it ends up that it's a bunch of posh white rich boys together. But there are a lot of other people. There are a lot of... It is not nearly as bad as it used to be, because, well, they offered university degrees to women now, and, you know, people travel to Oxford and Cambridge from China, Japan, Indonesia, Canada, the US, anywhere. People come to Oxbridge from anywhere because for some subjects it's the best in the world. However, the most important thing when you're thinking about universities is whether or not you're going to be happy, because you're going to be spending 3 years of your life there. And, you know, for when you're over 40 or 50, you might think 3 years isn't that much time. However, you don't tend to be applying to university now. Most of the people who I'm talking to right now are thinking 3 years is quite a long time. You'll spend a lot of time in university unless you drop out or fail. And that isn't good anyway, because that's a lot of money to throw down. But you should go to the place which you think that you would enjoy, benefit, and experience the most from. Because essentially, universities all cost the same. They usually cost about £9 grand a year for tuition fees, and for accommodation, for living fees. You know, it's different based on where it is in the country. But that doesn't mean it's any better. It doesn't mean that any university in London is better than any university in, say, Bangor, right? Because Bangor is a good university for some things, and universities in London are good for other things. Possibly the same things, I'm not entirely sure. But they both definitely are good. They both have subjects where they're better than each other. I'm not naming any examples apart from the fact that Bangor, there's only one university, but I'm just using Bangor as an example. The living fees at Bangor are a lot cheaper than the living fees at London. And that doesn't mean to say that the quality of the degree that you're getting at Bangor is any worse quality than the quality of degree that you're getting at London. It's just that it's in a cheaper place of the country. So you need to think about where you'd like to be, what environment you'd like to be in, and whether or not you'd feel comfortable there. Like I said, the crucial thing about university is that you're satisfied where you are. You don't want to spend 3 years of your life being really uncomfortable, because you've just been in high school. By the end of high school, lots of people are really uncomfortable with it, and you don't want another 3 years of that. I know lots of people, lots of adults who have been completely redefined based on how they were at university. People they met, the friends they made, everything that happened at university has affected their lives. And for others, it's made no difference, but still, you don't really want to go to somewhere where you won't feel comfortable. However, I think it's important for people to aim as high as they can. But it's important that you go to the place which is best for you. And also good for the subject that you want to do there. So you don't really want to go somewhere which doesn't have the course which you want to do exactly and has lots of modules which you aren't interested in, which you have to do. You know, you want to make sure that you're doing the best course that you can reach. You want to get the best degree that you can make. And that's what I'm going to be helping out with you guys on this channel. There'll be other study videos, there'll be little top tips videos. And it's important to understand that Oxbridge aren't always the best at every single subject. I can't give you any examples right now because I can't think of enough subjects because my mind's gone blank. But there are many subjects, and it is a good idea for you to just have a look at some rankings and see. Sometimes Oxford and Cambridge really aren't that high up. And you know, you've got other places like York, Lancaster, Cardiff, Durham, St Andrews higher than them. And I admit it is not always a good idea to just completely trust the rankings. But they have been rated, they have been looked at based on the quality of the courses sometimes. Just make sure that you're looking at the right things. So like, if you're not interested in, you know, how sporty a certain university is, then you don't need to look that up. Just because it has the Oxford-Cambridge logo on it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best place to go for that course. For example, I have a friend who wanted to study mathematics, but he didn't really want to do mechanics or, well, he didn't want to do mechanics or physics-based mathematics, and he was planning on applying to Cambridge. He had a look at the syllabus and then realised, actually no, I don't want to do this. This is just not the course for me. And that is important to know. But he seems like he'll be happy going to another university, say St Andrews, say Bath, say Bristol, say Durham. Like, all of these universities are definitely very good. And, you know, just because it's got Oxford, Cambridge on it, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best. You shouldn't completely idolise it because it's technically the best. Lots of people ask, should you bother? And my kind of mindset for that is, you've got 5 choices on your UCAS form. What is the harm in just applying to Oxford or Cambridge? Just using one of those slots to apply to Oxbridge, because you only need one offer to go to university. So if you've got a free slot, if you can't decide before the early deadline where you want to go, you might as well put Oxford or Cambridge down, because there are lots of really bright people who just don't think that they're good enough for Oxford or Cambridge. I know someone, right, okay, so for example, take myself. I got 4 A stars at GCSE, and 4 A's and 3 B's. I know people who got 11 to 13 A stars, and the rest being A's, and they didn't bother. They didn't think that they were good enough. The practical upshot of that is I applied, and I got, I can't say any more at the moment because I've not been informed whether or not I've got a place, but I applied to Oxford and I got an interview, which means that I definitely have the potential to be, and I was in the top 30%. And looking at my GCSE results, comparing them to some of my friends who think they can't do it, it's surprising, because I got half as many A stars as they did. If you're not smart enough, if you don't think you're smart enough, just consider it. Have a look at some of the courses and see am I interested in this? Am I interested in any of these courses? Just go up on the course listings on Oxford, Cambridge, St Andrews, Durham, those top universities which everyone talks about and says, oh, they're so prestigious. Just have a look at some of the courses. And there's no harm in just pushing yourself a bit and seeing if you would be able to make it there. But I'm not going to tell you that going to Oxford or Cambridge is easy. The admissions process is quite laborious and quite difficult. So, for example, from my experience, I've got a video coming out about it soon. September, I was writing my personal statement. And October the 15th, I give in my... Well, by October the 15th, I give in my UCAS form. I apply to Oxford. 31st of October, I take a maths admissions test, which of course is incredibly difficult, and you know, you've got to be preparing for it for about a month beforehand, maybe 2, 3, but as long as you can, right? The more used you get to it, it is worth revising for. You take the test, and then you've just got to prepare for interviews just in case you get one. I found out that I had an interview about 12 days, 13 days before my interview started, and my interview started on the 9th, so I got an email on around the 27th of November to tell me that I had an interview. Well, I had an interview in the period from the 9th to the 12th of December. So if you get an interview, this is for Oxford now, it's different for Cambridge, and I'll explain that in a second. You go down to Oxford, you stay in the accommodation, you stay in the halls, and you have some interviews. It depends on the subject. I had about 3. No, I had 4, sorry. And then you go on. I'm now in that period between the interviews, which happened finished about 2 weeks ago, and finding out whether or not I got a place, which happens in about 2 weeks. It's a similar system in Cambridge, apart from when you go down for interviews. Sorry, I say go down because I live in the north. When you go down to interviews, you stay for about a day. You don't tend to stay overnight in the accommodation. You might stay overnight at a hotel so that you can be there in time. So you're only going to be there for a day if you go to Cambridge. And lots of other universities don't even bother with interviews. So yeah, there are a lot of hoops to jump through if you're applying to Oxford. And I've only just told you the things which you absolutely have to do to get in. The things which are recommended are doing reading, doing work, doing volunteering, doing projects, doing anything which makes your application seem more appealing. And despite it seeming hard, it is very much possible. And even if you're not going to apply or attempt to apply to Oxford or Cambridge, then I hope that you can at least consider it, because it isn't as hard as it seems. It is incredibly hard. I don't feel like I've got in, and I worked really hard for it, but you never know if you don't try. Anyway, I've been Jolly Rob, and I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.